He got into a taxi, thinking the hotel was 10 minutes away. 30 minutes later, the doors were still locked. The meter wouldn't stop. The streets were empty. And that's when he realized this wasn't a ride anymore. Long before that night, before the taxi, before the silence, he had imagined this trip for years. Not the photos. Not the souvenirs. But the feeling, the idea of stepping into a new country and becoming someone else, even if only for a week. A place where no one knew his name, a place where mistakes didn't follow you. A place where everything felt possible again. The plane landed just after sunset. From the window, the city looked unreal. Lights stretched endlessly, like a living constellation beneath him. He pressed his forehead against the glass. This was it, this was the moment everything was supposed to change. Inside the airport, reality rushed back in. Noise. Movement, crowds flowing in every direction. Suitcases rattling, shoes scraping the floor, voices colliding in languages he didn't understand. He felt it in his shoulders first, the weight of travel, the weight of exhaustion. Jet lag pressed behind his eyes, hunger tightened his stomach. Still, he smiled. Because tired or not, he had arrived. He followed the signs, passport control, baggage claim. Everything felt slightly slower than usual, like his body was a step behind his mind. By the time he grabbed his suitcase, his excitement had softened, replaced by one simple thought: I just want to reach the hotel. That's when the voice found him. Not loud. Not aggressive, friendly. Taxi, sir. Hotel. He turned. The man looked ordinary, late 40s, clean jacket, short hair beginning to gray, a smile that didn't feel forced. Someone who blended perfectly into the chaos. Someone who looked safe. Before he could respond, the man reached for his suitcase. Not roughly, not rushed. Confidently. As if this had already been decided. He hesitated, just a moment. A quiet instinct whispered something he couldn't name. But the airport was crowded. Everyone seemed in a hurry. And he was tired of thinking. So he followed. Outside, the night wrapped around him instantly. Cool air, a strange smell, fuel mixed with street food and damp pavement. The city sounded different out here, less controlled, more alive. The taxi waited at the curb. Nothing unusual. No broken windows. No strange markings. Just another car, in another city. He placed his suitcase inside. Then himself. The door closed. The sound was soft, almost gentle. Click. The engine started. And without ceremony, without warning, they moved. At first, everything felt normal. The driver spoke casually, asked where he was from, commented on the weather. He answered politely, smiled, relaxed. The tension he hadn't noticed began to leave his body. The city flowed past the window. Streetlights casting long shadows. Small cafes still open. Couples laughing on sidewalks. Music leaked from somewhere, a melody he didn't recognize but somehow liked. He reached for his phone, checked the map. Hotel, 12 minutes away. He nodded to himself. Perfect. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The traffic thinned. The streets narrowed, buildings grew older. Closer together. Something about the silence outside changed. He shifted in his seat. The taxi turned left. Then right again. He watched the map reload. Spin. Freeze. Is everything okay? He asked carefully. The driver's eyes met his in the mirror, still smiling. Traffic. Short way. The meter continued its quiet work. Tick, 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 numbers climbing. Too fast. Something cold moved through his chest. Not fear yet, just awareness. The kind that arrives late. The awareness settled slowly. Not like panic. Not like fear in movies. It was quieter than that. He noticed his breathing first. Shallow. Careful. As if his body was trying not to attract attention. The streets outside no longer looked welcoming. Windows were dark. Shops were closed. Streetlights flickered instead of shining. The city felt hollow. He checked his phone again. No signal. The screen dimmed slightly, as if even the device was giving up.
He placed it face down on his lap. The taxi kept moving, too smoothly, too confidently, as if the driver knew exactly where he was going, even if the passenger didn't. He tried to sound casual. So, busy night. No response. Not even a glance in the mirror, just the engine. And the road. That's when the silence changed. It became heavier. No longer neutral. It pressed against his ears. He shifted again. The seatbelt dug slightly into his shoulder. A reminder that he was restrained. Not trapped. Not yet. But close enough to feel it. "Excuse me," he said, a little firmer this time. "I think we passed the hotel." The driver exhaled slowly. Not annoyed. Not surprised. Just patient. "You worry too much," he said calmly. The words sounded rehearsed. Practiced. As if he'd said them many times before. The meter ticked louder now. Or maybe, he was just listening harder. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound felt like a second being taken from him. He imagined stopping the car, imagined opening the door, imagined stepping out into the night. But the streets outside were empty. No witnesses. No lights. No comfort. The taxi slowed. Then turned into a narrow street. Too narrow. The walls on either side were close enough to feel like they were leaning in. Finally, the car stopped. No hotel. No sign. No movement. Just an old building and a flickering street lamp. "This isn't it," he said quietly. The driver turned around. The smile was gone. Completely. The face in front of him now looked older. Harder. As if the friendliness had been a mask, and it had finally been removed. The driver pointed to the meter. The number sat there, glowing. "Absurd. Impossible. That can't be right," he whispered. His voice sounded smaller than he expected. The driver leaned closer. Not threatening. Not loud. Which somehow made it worse. "You pay," he said. The words hung in the air. No explanation. No negotiation. Just a statement. "I won't pay that," he tried. His heart was racing now. He could feel it in his neck. The driver's eyes didn't move. "You don't pay," he said slowly. "Problem." The meaning was clear. Not explained, not detailed. But understood. In that moment, the situation shifted. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. He looked at the door, at the handle, at the window. Every option played out in his mind, and ended badly. The driver waited, patient, confident, as if time itself was on his side. Slowly, he reached for his wallet. His fingers felt numb, detached, like they didn't belong to him. He counted the cash. Too much. Far too much. The driver watched closely, didn't blink. When he handed it over, the driver took it without a word. Didn't count it, didn't thank him, just folded it, and put it away. The lock clicked. This time, in reverse. "Go." He opened the door. Cold air rushed in. He stepped out. The taxi pulled away immediately. No hesitation. No glance back. It disappeared into the dark street as if it had never been there. He stood still. Suitcase at his side. Heart still pounding. Only now, after it was over, did his legs start to shake. The city felt enormous. Indifferent. Unaware. He picked up his suitcase. Started walking. Not sure where. Just, away.
He walked for a long time. Longer than he realized. The city around him slowly returned to life. Lights appeared again. A car passed. Voices echoed from somewhere far away. But he wasn't really seeing any of it. His mind was still in the taxi. Still hearing the ticking meter. Still seeing the driver's eyes. Still feeling that moment when he understood he had no power. Eventually, almost by accident, he saw the hotel sign. Warm lights, glass doors, people inside. Normal life. He stopped walking, just stood there for a second, as if his body needed permission to step back into safety. Inside, the lobby was calm, too calm. Soft music, a receptionist smiling politely. Tourists scrolling on their phones. No one looked alarmed. No one looked concerned. He checked in. His voice sounded steady, even though it wasn't.
The receptionist handed him the key card. "Enjoy your stay." He nodded, didn't answer. In the elevator, alone, surrounded by mirrors, he finally saw himself. Pale, eyes wide, jaw tense, a stranger. In the room, he dropped his suitcase, sat on the edge of the bed, and just breathed. The silence was overwhelming. No engine, no meter, no voice telling him to pay, just the hum of the city outside. That night, sleep never really came. Every time he closed his eyes, his body tensed. Every sound felt suspicious. Morning arrived slowly. Sunlight slipped through the curtains. Birds somewhere outside. Life continuing, as if nothing had happened. When he stepped outside, the city looked beautiful again. Cafes opening, people laughing, tourists taking photos. The same streets, but different now. He realized something then: the scam hadn't ruined the city, it had changed him. Because now he noticed everything: the smiles that lasted a second too long, the offers that came too quickly, the friendliness that felt rehearsed. He started reading, started asking questions, and slowly, he discovered the truth. This wasn't rare, this wasn't unlucky, this was systematic. The same story appeared again and again, different cities, different languages, same pattern. A tired tourist, a friendly local, a moment of trust, and then, control. Paris, Rome, Bangkok, Istanbul, New York, even cities you think you know. Because tourist scams don't depend on crime, they depend on psychology. They target exhaustion, confusion, politeness. The fear of making a scene, the fear of confrontation. And by the time you realize something is wrong, you're already alone. He didn't report it. Most people don't. Because explaining feels harder than forgetting. But he never forgot. Not the money, not the fear, but the lesson. Now, when he travels, he does things differently. He walks a little slower, questions a little more, trusts less easily. Not because the world is evil, but because it isn't always kind. So if you're listening to this, planning a trip, dreaming of somewhere new, remember this story. Remember that danger doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it smiles. Never rush when you're tired, never trust the first offer, and never get into a ride you didn't choose. Because sometimes, the most dangerous moment of your journey is the first one.